is our YMCA overnight camp webinar, and I just want to answer some basic questions that campers and parents have about overnight camp. So here's some of the things that we will be doing this evening. So the first off is just a little bit about logistics and how we're going to operate tonight. I'm going to do all the work. You get to just sit back and relax and listen to what I have to say, and you can learn a little bit about camp as we're doing that. In the chat box, it's set so the questions are just going to go to me. So during the evening, if you do have a question that comes up, you can go ahead and type it in there. And at the end of the program, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I think that you'll find, though, that I'm going to answer a lot of the questions as we go throughout the presentation this evening. If you find that you have any other questions when we're done, please feel free. You can email me or give me a call, and I would be happy to talk about camp. I love camp, so you don't have to worry about that. I don't mind talking about it in the least. We're going to give you a little bit of information just about our directors tonight. I have a great announcement about that for you. I talked to you a little bit about why camp and why you should really consider sending your kids to camp. And then I'm going to go through a series of frequently asked questions. And these are questions, some of which some of you have already submitted to me before the webinar, asking things that your kids were wondering about camp. And we're going to try to go through those as much as we can. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how the camps are different, because we're talking about both Camp Kenan and about Camp Weona this evening. And then just kind of what your next steps are if you wanted to register for camp, and then answering any questions that you have. We'll try to keep this so it's not too late so that you can all get to bed, but so that you have some basic information as well. Now, the first thing I want to do is just introduce myself. As I mentioned, my name is Jennifer Coe, and I am the Resident Camp Executive Director, specifically for Camp Kenan with YMCA Buffalo Niagara. And I've been with Buffalo Niagara, this will be going on my 4th summer, and I can tell you I have the best job in the world. I get to hang out with kids, I get to be on the water, I get to be in the outdoors, and I get to do everything that I love to do. So I love my job. And I love camp. I've been a camp director now. This will be my 25th year being a camp director. And I've done it just my whole life. I started off going to camp as a kid, and I truly believe that if it weren't for camp, I would not be where I am today. So I love camp. Other than camp, I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology from the University at Buffalo. I have been a college professor teaching both anthropology and sociology, health science, and working with freshman students and helping them to acclimate to the college environment. I also, when I was working in the college, I was a student support services coordinator, and I worked specifically with students who had disabilities, helping them to helping with their accommodations and to acclimate to the camp environment. Outside of that, I also have a master's degree in camp. If you didn't even know that that was possible, it is. And so that's how much I love camp. So I've been working again with Buffalo Niagara. This will be going on my 4th year with camp. And this last year, because of the pandemic, I had the awesome opportunity to not only help with camp at Kenan, but also at Weona, which is our 2nd overnight camp. But we also have a great announcement because we have a new resident camp director that is going to be joining us in just a couple weeks. So our new executive director is Adam Milton, and some of you may already know Adam because he has been overseeing Camp Tehigwa for the last couple years and working in our SAC programs as well. He is super excited to be running Camp Weona this summer. This will be, he's worked at 4 different summer camps, 3 different organizations, and this will be his 11th year working at camp. As you can see here, it says his favorite camp activities are kayaking, zip lining, team building, bonfires, and then all those camp traditions. and he is super looking forward to meeting all of you very soon. So now that you know a little bit about me and a little bit about Adam, let's see if we can learn a little bit about you. So we're going to go through a couple of polls just to give you an opportunity to give us some feedback as well. So the first question, again, this is going to pop up on your screen. You can go ahead and answer it, and then I'll show everybody what the results are. So our first question is, have you already registered for overnight camp? Go ahead and put yes or no, and let's see what everybody has been doing. We have almost 30 people on the call tonight, which is really great. Give a chance for everybody to answer. And right now it looks like we've got about half and half, which is super great. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll in 3, 2, 1. And I will share the results. And like I said, it is exactly 50-50. So some of you have already registered for camp and you're just looking for some more information. And some of you are still on the fence and wanted to learn a little bit more about the opportunities and the programs that we have. And that's exactly what tonight is all about. So let's go with, let's see, I think I've got another poll here. This one is, I'm wondering if you know which camp you're interested in or which camp you're already registered for. So like I said, we have 2 overnight camps, Camp Kenan and Camp Weona. And again, we'll learn about all the activities there. Let's see what everybody has to say. Okay, I'm going to close in 3, 2, and 1. Let me go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So it sounds like we've got a few more people on the call that are interested or already registered for Camp Kenan, and then some that are for Weona, but we've got a whole group that are interested in either or both. And that's what I love to see, because having worked at lots of different camps in the past, I know it's not just about the location, it's also about all the things that you do there. It's about the people that you're part of. And so location doesn't always matter as much as that kind of that campy feeling that you get. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that. And let's go with just our third question for right now. And this one is just about location, because I'm kind of interested in where you're from. Are you coming from Erie County, Niagara, Wyoming, or someplace else? There we go. We got almost everybody's answered. You guys are quick. So get it. I'm going to close in 3, 2, and 1. And here's our results. So we looks like we've got most folks are here from Erie County, and then we got Niagara County, and then some folks that are from other areas as well. So that's really great to hear, because what you're going to find out is that both of our camps are pretty much equidistant from the Buffalo area, which is really great. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that. And we'll come back and we'll do one more poll later on after I tell you about some of the activities that we have at camp. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to start answering some of the questions that campers and parents quite often have about what we do at camp. And the number one question, oh, hold on. Let me talk about why camp first before we get into those questions. I was so excited about it. So why camp? Whenever I'm talking to parents, we always seem to talk a lot about the fun that we have there. And that's what, we're going to talk about tonight, about all the activities, about doing archery and the ropes course and going swimming and being outdoors. But camp is so much more than that. And from an educator standpoint, I know that, and I've seen the differences that kids have who've been to camp and who haven't. So the first thing is that we know that camp helps kids develop lifelong skills. They're working together, they're developing cooperation, and they're talking to one another. They learn social skills and empathy, just about feeling, trying to recognize what other kids feel and responding to that. And they meet kids that are different from them as well, that aren't from their same hometowns, that aren't in their classes at school. So it helps them to appreciate the differences in others. Camp also helps kids to develop independence. We know they're away from home, they're away from their parents. They meet new people and they try new activities and foods. They learn to kind of listen to their inner voice. Instead of having mom or dad right next to them, or close enough that they can contact at all times, they start to develop confidence about what is right and wrong, what should I do and what shouldn't I do. They learn to be patient and they learn to ask questions. Camp also gives kids the chance to play. Away from electronics, we find that kids start to actually talk to each other. We know they get more physical exercise. And the thing is that we don't realize how much time kids are really spending on their electronics. Research shows that kids are spending on average 7.5 hours a day in front of a screen. And that's not just a telephone, that could be, an iPad, a tablet at school, a television. At camp, when we don't have those electronics, it gives kids an opportunity to play, and they get to do these skills that they're going to be able to take with them for a lifetime. What I consider probably the most important thing is that camp gets kids outside. It gets them off the couch, out of their bedrooms, in the outdoors. It gets them in the sunshine and in the rain. And research is solid in that the outside activities, being in the outdoors, has numerous benefits. They've seen it reduce anxiety and depression. It improves focus and concentration, and it just has enhanced physical health. And what the researchers have found is that these benefits aren't just while the kids are at camp, it also extends into their schools and into their home lives. So kids who are outdoors are showing better focus and concentration in their classroom. So that's super important. So now on to those frequently asked questions that I was so eager to get to before. Number one question that kids want to know is, where are we going to stay? Now, we want to make sure that the kids understand that all of their basic needs are going to be taken care of. So they're going to have a roof over their heads. They're going to have a place to eat, and they're going to have security. So at camp, both of our camps have small rustic cabins. And rustic just means they're not carpeted and they're not all fancy, but they have everything that you need. The cabins themselves hold 8 to 14 people. And typically we have 10 campers and 2 leaders that stay in each cabin with the kids. On the left here, you're going to see these are some of the cabins that are at Camp Kenan. And on the right are some of the cabins that we have at Camp Weona. Now, inside the cabins, I think they're pretty nice. They all have bunks with mattresses on them. They do have overhead lights that can turn on and off in the evening, and they do have electrical outlets. Not that your kids are going to need them because they're going to leave those electronics at home, but it gives us a place to plug in a fan and to plug in our walkie-talkies so that we can communicate around camp. All of the cabins at both camps are very similar to this, with those wooden bunks and the mattresses that are in them. Campers are assigned into the cabins based on their ages. So each week it's a little bit different. We take a whole list of all the kids that are going to be at camp and we sort them out and we place them into cabins that way. Campers, though, can choose to have a bunkmate or a cabin mate, somebody who they already know. Now you can request that person during the registration process. The most important thing is there's somebody that's the same gender, they're the same age, and they are both requesting each other. We want to make sure that this is a kind of a mutual request between the kids. So, both of you request each other. You just have to make sure you do it well in advance of when the camper session is so that we're able to assign kids into bunks appropriately. Once you're in your bunks, the kids kind of make it their own. So they bring their sleeping bag or blankets, and they have time in there during siesta to kind of hang out and read and to be with their friends. It becomes really their home away from home. Second biggest question is, what are we going to eat? At each of our camps, we have a huge, large dining hall where we have a cook and their assistants that make all of our food and they serve it. And meals are really simple and they have kids in mind as well as choosy diets. And I think that's important, and I'm not picking on kids because let me tell you, I am one of the pickiest eaters ever was. So when we say simple meals, I mean it. I want to be able to know what's on my food, and I usually want to be able to put it on there and decide how many and what we're going to put on there. And so that's the way a lot of our meals are set up. This picture here is a picture of the dining hall at Weona. So let's talk a little bit about each of the meals. So breakfast typically contains some kind of like a main item, like pancakes or waffles or French toast, scrambled eggs and bacon or sausage. And then during each of the breakfasts, we also have available cereal, yogurt, granola, and some kind of fruit that the kids can pick if they truly don't like the main meal. We never want kids to go hungry. And so that's, something you want them to, expect what the kind of meals are going to be, but always know that there are options. Cereals are generally gluten-free and they're low sugar. So you're not going to see a lot of those really sugary cereals. So you're going to see things like Rice Krispies or Cheerios as options for the meals. This is a picture of our dining hall at Camp Kenan. For lunch, we typically have kind of more of a cold, build your own type meal. So it might be something like sandwiches or subs, tacos every Tuesday, pita bread sandwiches, or one of our favorites is a baked potato bar. And when you have a build your own, it's really, you get to choose what items you want in or on it. I don't like my food mixed. And so I like to have things plain and be able to choose what I'm going to put on top of it. During supper, we usually have some kind of a main hot ingredient with some choices of sides and a bar with choices of like salad, veggies, and fruit. Some of the favorite meals at camp are things like pasta with Alfredo and chicken, spaghetti with red sauce and garlic bread. And then one night a week, we always have Thanksgiving dinner, complete with turkey and dressing and mashed potatoes, veggies, and even pie. I think it's important that we're all really thankful at camp, and this gives an opportunity to thank our new friends and to thank our staff and just to have a really great meal together, and the kids love it. One other thing I wanted to mention as we're going through here, all the pictures that I'm showing tonight are all real kids. They're not stock photos. They're all pictures that were taken at one of our camps. So these are real smiling faces that you're seeing. There's a couple more meals. Usually on Sunday night when the kids arrive, we'll start off kind of with a picnic dinner. So they'll have watermelon and hot dogs and hamburgers, corn on the cob, something like that. Just because that's something that kids usually like and it's comfortable for them. But again, these are real meals that we had at camp. The other thing is at least once during the week, we try to have a meal that's outdoors over the campfire. So kids get to help cook their own food and then just kind of enjoy time together. So we usually will have something like hot dogs or pizza bagels over the campfire. And again, the kids get to make it, they put it together, and then we all eat together. And of course, you have to finish it off with a s'more because kids love that and it's gooey and messy. Because of this kind of like build your own options that we have on the menu, kids who have special dietary needs don't need to do usually anything special. They get to choose the items that they want to eat, and our staff are always there to help them too. So if your child needs a gluten-free diet, or they're vegetarian, or they have some kind of other allergy or special need, that's usually something we can easily accommodate because of the way that we do our menu. Of course, you're going to let us know on their health information form if they do have any special concerns or special dietary needs, but I just want you to know that it's usually pretty easy for the kids to pick out things that they can have to eat. Another question that parents especially have is, what do we do if our kids get sick or they get hurt? Each of our camps has a health lodge or an infirmary that's right on site, usually in the center part of camp. And there's a medical provider who's there 24 hours a day. This is typically a nurse, but it could be an LPN, it could be an EMT, somebody with advanced first aid and some kind of health knowledge. Many of our staff are also certified in first aid and CPR and can take care of our basic bumps and scratches. Also, if you take regularly scheduled medications, you're going to let us know that on your health information form, but they'll all be kept at the health lodge and you'll go there to get your medication whenever it is that you need it. course, the big question that a lot of folks have is, what about COVID and how does that affect camp? In 2020, we weren't able to have overnight camp. We are regulated by the New York State Department of Health, as are many organizations. And in 2020, they didn't allow resident camps to happen. They allowed day camps, but not overnight camps. We were super lucky and super happy in 2021 that they allowed overnight camps to begin. And so last year we had what we kind of considered to be a reduced camp. We did part of the summer at Camp Kenan and part of the summer at Camp Weona. Now, we are expecting that they're going to have similar rules and expectations for this year, although we don't know. Last year, they did not give us those guidelines until June. So we're hoping that they're going to, continue to let us know, and we'll continue to let you know what those rules are. But last year, kids were not required to wear masks, although of course they could if they chose, and we did have campers that did. All areas at our camp had enhanced cleaning and sanitization. We tried to reduce the number of things that lots of people would have their hands in. So even at the dining hall, instead of passing dishes from one person to another, we had a lot of service for the meals. So kids would come up kind of buffet style and we would serve them. We did lots of activities outdoors, and we tried to minimize as many indoor activities as we could. And we tried to kind of reduce the number of large group gatherings, especially ones indoors. We're expecting a similar situation this year, but no, again, similar to what they've done in schools. We try to get kids to, space out a little bit. We try to get them to, wash their hands more frequently. And we, again, we were really happy. We had no incidents of COVID transmission at camp last year in our overnight camps. Now, we know it is common for kids to get minor bumps and scratches while they're at camp, and we have a fully stocked health lodges at both camps to be able to take care of those. If ever there is any major illnesses or injuries, we're going to call you. Our biggest thing is we want you kids to be happy. We want them to be successful at camp. We want you to trust us as well. And so each of our health lodges have landlines in them. And it's a simple call to say, hey, just want to let you know your son or daughter, in what's going on. Get your advice. It doesn't always mean that they have to go home, but we want to let you know what's going on so that you can kind of, have a say in their care as well. Both camps also are really nearby to both volunteer fire and ambulance services in case of an emergency. And again, in case of a serious emergency, we would contact you, and if it needed to be transmitted to a local hospital, that's something that can be done. Luckily, both our camps, like I said, are both relatively close to those areas and can get help pretty fast. This is our health lodge at Weona. Another big question that I get from almost everybody is, yeah, we know the kids can't have phones and they can't have electronics and they're not supposed to call home, but what happens if they get homesick? Now, first thing is I don't like to use the word homesick because they're not really sick, but that isn't to diminish that kids aren't going to miss home. Every child at camp misses home in some way. And it really is how we respond to that. First thing is that, yes, we know you miss home. Everybody misses home, and it's okay. What you can do, though, is really help to prepare the kids ahead of time, letting them know that, yep, you're going to miss home, and it's okay. We want you to have a good time. We're fine at home. You don't need to worry about us and the pets and your brothers and sisters. And then prepare them. Say, we know you're probably going to miss home at some point. So what is it that you can do? Maybe this is a time that you need to go talk to your counselor. Maybe go hang out with your friend that's at camp. Pull out your book and read. Write a letter home. Draw a picture. Play cards. Do something that you enjoy that's going to take your mind off it. The biggest thing is, though, that the advice that I give kids is if you miss home, you need to try to participate as much as possible. Get it out of your mind. Just love camp. Know that your parents want you to be here. We want you to be here. We want you to be successful. The other thing that you can do as a parent is, again, in preparation, let them know that it's going to be okay. But you can write them a letter ahead of time. Each of the camps has a place where you can drop off letters that you've written, and you can pre-address it for the day. So say you want this letter to be given to them on Monday and this one on Wednesday. And so then during siesta, we'll hand out those letters. That way you don't have to worry about the snail mail and whether or not the mail will get there or not. Let kids know that you're going to be fine, that you want them to be at camp, you want them to have a good time, and let them know that you're okay. I get the most crazy stories from kids, and when they tell me that they're missing home, it's usually because they say they're worried about you. They say they're worried about mom, that mom's going to miss me too much. They're worried about the cat, that the cat's going to be fed. They're worried about their brothers and sisters, who they're never worried about at any other time. So, know that they're going to miss home, and it's okay. I rarely, and I really mean rarely, need to send a kiddo home because they're missing home and they can't get over it. Usually day 1 and day 2, if a kid's going to miss home, that's the worst. But after that, they're fine. They get used to camp. They know where they're going to eat and where they're going to sleep and what they're going to do and the schedule, and they're busy and they're tired at the end of the day. So, encourage them just to stick with it, and they'll have a great time. So what does that day look like? How do we keep the kids busy? Well, it is from morning till literally night. Usually we have wake up right around 7 a.m. Gives kids the time to grumble and grudge and to get ready and crawl out of their sleeping bags and get dressed. Usually right around 8, we all gather together and have flag ceremony and then head to breakfast. And then after breakfast, between breakfast and lunch, we'll have some kind of a rotation of activities where as a cabin group, they'll go and they'll say maybe go to archery or go to arts and crafts. And we'll talk more about those activities in a moment. Usually lunch is right around 12:30 and followed by siesta, which is just kind of a rest time. It's an opportunity for the kids to go back to the cabin, kind of decompress, read a book, talk with their friends, read a letter or write a letter. We try to have it be as quiet time as possible, just to give them kind of that rest that they really need, because they are physically moving from the time they get up till the time they go to bed. Dinner is usually around 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Followed by kind of a brief, heading back to the cabin, get it all cleaned up from, having pulled out that swimsuit and the underwear and the socks everywhere, get things kind of tidied up before our evening activity. And our evening activities are different every night. It could be a large group game. It could be a scavenger hunt. Usually it goes along with whatever the theme is for the week. But it's something where kids just get to go out and run and have fun and just kind of do something together. 9 p.m. it generally is our call to cabins, meaning everybody goes back to the cabins, quiet hour start, and you get into your pajamas, you go brush your teeth and wash your face, get ready for bed, and then lights out is at 10 p.m. Now there are some nights, especially I would say like Tuesday and Wednesday, that might be earlier than that because the kids are tired. Usually the first night of camp, it's tough to get them into bed by 10 because they're so excited. But that's generally the rule of thumb. So what are some of those activities? Typically there's activities that everybody does. There's things that I just feel that every kid needs to experience at camp once or twice during their stay. And those are things like archery and arts and crafts, team building, nature and science activities. Everybody does those. And those are kind of in those morning rotations. And then we also have choice activities and skills tracks. And those are opportunities for kids to choose something that they're really interested in, and then they can learn more about. Now, choice is a one-time activity. So it might be something, it might be in an evening, it might be in an afternoon. And they're like, I just want to go spend one more time at archery, or I want to go to the pool one more time, or I want to go on a fossil hunt down on the beach. So they're usually one-time activities, and you can change them every day. Skills tracks are activities, though, that you want to develop a skill in. So for example, a kid might say that I want to do a skills track in archery. And so they would go to archery, 2 or 3 or 4 times during the week. Each time there's different activities and different opportunities for them to develop that skill, things for them to get better at and to achieve better at. So there'll be things like archery. High ropes is usually a skills track, because you can't just go on the high ropes course the first day. You have to first be able to, say, climb the wall and then get up to another part and then be able to gain the confidence to be able to do the other skills. We try to have skills tracks and choice activities for every age group and for every interest level. So things from arts and crafts to sports, to climbing and more adventurous things. So archery, of course, is one of those activities that we do. Another activity would be things like sports and games, group sports. Both camps have a bounce pillow, which if you haven't seen one, you got to. It is just a huge, giant, vinyl pillow that's inflated with air, and kids jump on it and they love it. And some of the kids could literally jump on it all day long until they collapsed from jumping. It's really fun. So things like basketball and kickball and soccer and hockey, frisbee, disc golf, camp games that capture the flag, and gaga ball, which you tend to only see at camps, but it's kind of like a much more tame version of dodgeball that's in a confined area. Other activities that everybody does and that kids can also specialize in are things like low ropes and team building. These are really challenges. The staff will usually provide the kids with a story where something's happened and they have to work together to solve the problem. And these are all interspersed in the woods. Each of them are different. You can see some of the kids doing them here, but all the kids get to do these because, again, we feel it's really important for them to work on those team building and communication skills. So there's some more kids, and this is at Kenan. They're doing an activity. And you can see here, this is a camper who is encouraging the kids that are in front of him on how to do the activity. What a valuable lesson this is for this kid to be doing this, not the staff member. This is the kid that's leading this activity. Outdoor skills and nature activities, learning how to build a fire, how to play in the mud, how to get dirty and build a shelter. Favorite activities. Also have arts and crafts. Both of our camps have a different lodge or program area where you can do crafts. And we always try to set aside a craft that everybody gets to do during the week. And then you can also specialize in it if that's something that you really want to try. And then our favorite activity is swimming. Both of our camps have outdoor pools. There are lifeguards on site at all times. And it's a combination of both educational swimming as well as free swimming. All the kids will come in, they have a swim assessment when they start, so we know where they can swim in the pools. And we've got places in the pools for both of our smallest and our least experienced swimmers to our more advanced ones. Boating is also something that is fun. And this is where our two camps differ a little bit, because Camp Kenan is right on Lake Ontario. And so we've got huge lake environment for them to boat in. And at Camp Weona, we've got a smaller man-made flat water pond, but both of them have options for boating, usually both canoeing and kayaking. While they're on the water, of course, everybody wears a life jacket, and the staff are always there to kind of help assist the kids in getting in and out of the boats. They're also out on the water with them, and there's a lifeguard there as well. The climbing tower is something that we try to encourage all the kids to do. And we have a tower at both camps. The high ropes and the zip line tends to be for more advanced and older campers, because in order to do the high ropes elements and the zip line, you got to be able to get to the top of the climbing wall, which isn't something that always our youngest campers are able to do. But what an amazing opportunity, the amazing program to watch, where you've got kids that say, I can't do that. And by the end of the week, they can. And that sense of accomplishment is just amazing. So there you can see that's our climbing wall. The previous photo, this is the climbing wall at Weona. This is at Kenan, and this is a zip line at Kenan as well. And then we always like to try to finish the beginning of our week and the end of the week, and sometimes even in the middle with a campfire. And a campfire is much more than just the fire. It's an opportunity for everybody to get together. They sing, they dance, they do skits, they're funny. It's like watching television, but you're the actor. And it's, you know, the replacement for TV, and it's a replacement for movies, but they actually get to participate in it. I've seen some of the most spectacular things happen at campfires before, where kids who didn't want to talk and didn't, you know, who were maybe even socially awkward at the beginning of the week, get up at the end of the week at campfire and sing a song by themselves or take part in a skit. And, you know, these are changes that all happen during a week, and it's pretty spectacular. Another question that parents often have is, you know, who's there and who's taking care of our kids? Both camps this year, because of the pandemic, we're working in a combined format. So part of the weeks are at Kenan, part of them are at Weona, and they tend to have the same staff that will be working at both. Most of our staff are folks who are already part of the YMCA. They're already staff members, maybe from past, maybe they're, you know, have worked at camp before, were campers, work in our SAC programs. But regardless, all the YMCA staff have completed an application, an interview, they've had reference checks and background checks, and they all, before camp, regardless if they've already worked in our school age programs, they come to camp and they have a full week of on-site training where they're going through all of those activities that I just showed you, and they're learning how to run them and how to run them safely and how to run them in a fun way. Staff who are running our specialty programs, like the pool and archery and things like that, also go through extra training for that. So here you can see some of our staff that are running our activities. Both of these young men who are leading these activities, both were campers at our camp as well. So we really like to see that. They love camp and they love being able to teach kids about what they've learned. In addition to our staff, both camps also have a leader in training and a counselor in training program. It's for 15 and 16-year-olds. These are campers, they're not staff, but they do assist in some of the activities as they are themselves learning leadership skills. We also have staff that come in from other countries. So not just our local staff and our YMCA staff, but staff that go through a special staffing organization that come here to camp specifically to work with kids. They go through all the same checks that our staff here in the US do, including reference checks and background checks. And they really add a special flavor to camp that beyond just our regular traditional staff. In 2019 at Kenan, we had staff that were there from 5 different countries, which again gives the kids an opportunity to really appreciate differences in others. So all the activities that I just showed you are things that both camps have in common. They're both all the activities that the kids can do. And so they're very similar. But our 2 overnight camps, and you can see them on this map with the 2 hearts, are mostly different based on their geography and their location and their size, rather than really their activities. And so as you're going through and you're thinking about, you know, what camp do I want my kid to go to? It's something, you know, think about that, think about geography and location. And then if you have other questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Adam so you can kind of learn more and find out what camp is best for your camper. Camp Kenan, which is the northernmost heart, is located about 1 hour north of Buffalo, and it's about 30 minutes from Lockport. Whereas Weona, which is towards the center of the map here, is about an hour east of Buffalo. So both of them are just about an hour's difference from kind of the Buffalo central area. So this is kind of a overhead view of Camp Kenan. And as I mentioned, most of it, the differences have to do with geography and just size of the different camps, not necessarily with the programs that they offer. So Kenan is located closest to Barker, New York, and it is right on Lake Ontario. So you can see the northernmost part of this picture, that's the lake right there. So camp is right on it. What's nice about that is you get a nice breeze that blows off the lake all the time. It keeps things relatively cool compared to the city. And we don't get that many insects either. So you don't see as many mosquitoes or big flies that are biting. Size though, Kenan is much smaller. It's about 50 acres. So you can see all of camp within this picture. About a quarter of it is open fields, so playing fields, swimming pool, playing areas, and then about 2/3 to 3/4 of it is forests. But the landscape is relatively flat. So you can get from one spot to another with not going up and down hills. It's really kind of flat topography. The cabins at Kenan are located right around that central open area. So they all face the central part of camp. And if you were to stand in the middle of the playing fields, you could see all of the cabins at once. Kenan has been in this location now for 98 years. It is, approaching its 100th birthday, and all in this one location. Some of the activities that kids love to do at Kenan definitely revolve around the lake. They love going down in the beach. You can find, millions-year-old fossils down there. You can see beautiful vistas. The kids love to look out and look at the big boats and the big barges. When it's clear at night, you can look across the water and you can see Canada. It's super beautiful. Most amazing sunsets that you can ever imagine. Lots of different birds come through there, lots of shorebirds. It's very, very frequently we see bald eagles. We see monarch butterfly migrations come through at the end of the summer. But those are some of the things that the kids really love to do. But again, other than that, all the same activities that I mentioned before, just kind of the scope and the size of the camp is smaller. This is our aerial view of Camp Weona, and the difference is here in just the size of the camp. Weona is over 800 acres, and it is very hilly and wooded. So this is, your typical very woodsy camp. Cabins at Weona, instead of being around a central area like they are at Kenan, are interspersed in the woods. So there's 3 separate living areas with different cabins in them, and then the kids walk from those living areas down to the main central parts of camp. Weona has been in this location for about 65 years, but as a camp, it is celebrating this summer its 125th birthday. It's been in different locations during that time, but 125 years of Camp Weona programming. Now, some of the things that kids love to do at Weona are also related to the water. So they love to boat, and they can fish, and there's a man-made flat water pond that is at the camp. And so that's where they're doing their boating. The other thing that is different is at Weona, full week campers are able to also do a single horseback ride during their stay. We contract with a local stable there, and they bring in horses so the kids can do a horseback ride while they're there. So let's look a little bit at the summer camp schedule as we kind of wind down the program. As I mentioned, this year, again, we're doing part of the summer at Kenan and part of it at Weona. So our first 4 weeks are basically at Kenan, and then we transfer over to 3 weeks at Weona. And kids have options to come to different weeks and different experiences. So if your child is from ages 5 to 8, they can kind of come to a smaller condensed camp. It's called our first experience camp, and it runs from Sunday to Wednesday or Wednesday to Saturday. So it's 3 nights and 4 days, and that's for ages 5 to 8. It's really to give them an opportunity to kind of get a taste of camp, but not stay for a full week. Our traditional camp is for kids ages 7 to 15, and that's where they come in on Sunday and then they leave on Saturday, and they do all of the activities, rotations and skills tracks and choice activities, evening programs that I mentioned to you. And then those two older camper programs I mentioned are Leader in Training, which is a 2-week program, 2 consecutive weeks, and then our Counselor in Training program, which is a 3-week program. So this is a time now where if you have questions and you can think about questions, to go ahead and put them in the chat box while I'm kind of rounding things up and talking to you about your next steps. So the big thing is kind of stop and think about the information I gave you, see if you have any other questions, and then feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, which is always good, or you can reach me by phone at the Lockport Family YMCA. Sometimes it tends to be that I can respond to your messages by email a little bit better. Then you'll want to go and you can register for camp when you're ready. Registration can be done online, and all you need to do is put down a $50 deposit to hold your spot. The remainder of the payment is not due until closer to the summer camp season. And then there will be additional paperwork that you'll want to complete. There's a health information form, which basically gives us just the basics like emergency contact information, health and dietary needs, behavioral or social challenges that your camper might have. You do not need to do a physical. The only thing that you would need to go to a doctor for is for a medication administration form. So if your child takes any kind of regular routine medications or vitamins, there's a form that you'll need to have your doctor sign that gives us permission to give those medications while they are at camp. Same thing as if you want any over-the-counter medications to be administered while they're there. So say if they have a headache and they need a Tylenol or an ibuprofen, there would be that form that you would want your doctor to complete. They do not need a physical though. We also will need a current immunization record, and all those forms don't need to be submitted until June 1st. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, put those in the chat. Couple last things before I head to any of your questions is we really want you to come visit camp. The best way for your child and you to have a successful camp experience is to be prepared. Read the manuals, talk to me and ask questions, and prepare for camp. Each of the camps will have an open house that you'll be able to come out and visit them. Usually there'll be staff there that you can meet. You can even play on some of the equipment that we have there, bounce on the bounce pillow, and just kind of really, walk through a cabin and see what it looks like so that you're prepared. Because again, we want you to have a really successful, great time. The other thing is stay tuned because we will have a second and possibly a third webinar as we get closer to the camp season. The next one would be more geared to kids who have registered for camp and what to expect. What do you need to pack? What do you need to prepare for? And how do you prepare your parents to survive without you? That's sometimes some of the most challenging things. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna stop the sharing and pop out of there. And I'm going to go over to the chat. So just kind of bear with me as I go over and read what you have. Okay, so first question from Ashley has to do with theme weeks. All the activities that I mentioned to you tonight, the kids always do every week. I would say the theme weeks are more just kind of icing on the cake. They're to give each week just a little bit of different flair and different variety. So the theme is not as much as important unless the kid's really interested in that. It's really just icing on the cake. So one of our weeks at Kenan is Best of Camp Kenan. And that's the week where we do some of those favorite activities that they like to do. So we do kind of like that color run. They might do a nighttime movie, just some of those things that the kids like to do. If we had a medieval themed week, one of the evening activities might have to do with that. One of the big weeks at Kenan is our Olympics week, and they've been doing it for decades. And the kids all divided up into different teams based on different countries, and they kind of gently and friendly compete during the whole week. But again, it's those things that tend to happen in the evening activities and is more the icing on the cake rather than the theme for every activity that they do. So thank you for that. And if there's a specific week that you're interested in learning more about, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to do that. Another question is, do kids get to sleep outside during any of the nights? So that all depends. Usually on their cookout night, they have an opportunity to sleep outdoors. But my most important thing is I want the kids to have a successful overnight experience. And so if the kids don't want to sleep outside, sometimes they don't. So as the kids get older, there are more opportunities for them to sleep outside. So they may build a shelter in the woods and sleep there. They may go out and they may tent. So it's not required of everybody and it's not required of all ages, but we do try to make that opportunity available to them. Good question. Another question was about showering. So the kids do swim every day. And then they have an opportunity after they swim to shower. Now, whether that's a full shampoo, conditioner, scrub from head to toe shower, they definitely have the opportunity to rinse off. We tend to have to force kids to shower. So that's something that you want to encourage your kids to take advantage of when they have the opportunity to shower. But yes, they definitely do have the opportunity. The pools are both chlorinated, and so we have a maintenance director on site who oversees the chemicals in the pool. Another question had to do about swimming and whether we do swim lessons daily. Swim lessons, I would say, tend to be more informal at overnight camp because the kids are hot and they want to get in water and they want to play. So that is not to say that they don't get swim lessons. So they do, it just happens to be part of the swim time, and it's also more informal than a formal lesson. We have lots of kids though that they learn how to swim at camp, they learn how to do lifeguarding and survival swimming, and they have a great time with that. Question from Jesse is, will siblings of different ages be able to see each other at camp? So they're not going to be in activities necessarily throughout the day, but they are going to see each other during those large group activities. So morning during flag ceremony and call to camp, they're going to see each other in the dining hall. They're going to see each other in the evenings when we do evening activities. And if they did choose to, they could do a choice activity or a skills track activity together. We tend to see more often than not, though, that siblings don't want to see each other. Or one sibling does and the other one doesn't. Okay, so for health forms for resident camp, we tend to wait just a little bit longer. We're still waiting for some of the guidance from the Department of Health in terms of what they're going to require for immunizations. So we don't have those out yet, and they're not due until June 1st. So we'd rather you just had to fill out one rather than multiples, but usually we have those out. It tends to be by April 1st. For first experience camp, we do allow five to 8. I think the biggest thing with 5-year-olds is we want to make sure that they're going to be successful, that they have completed, a year in school, that they're used to some type of formal education, so they're able to listen and follow directions. That's probably the biggest thing. If you end up having problems when you're registering, and if it's not allowing you because of a birthday cutoff, just reach out to me and I can take care of that for you. Big question also here, are campers allowed to call home if they want? No. So we are electronics free, and we do not allow kids generally to call home. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't happen. So in extreme circumstances, if a child does not seem to be adjusting to camp, we will usually reach out to the parent first and say, what would you like to do? But it is not just camper coming up and saying, hey, I want to call home. It would be us calling you first, saying, hey, we want to let you know what's going on. How do you want to handle it? In my experience, what tends to happen is that calling home makes home missing worse. So, usually the kids If they don't call home, they tend to adjust better. But if they're requesting that, if they're wanting to call home and they do not seem to be adjusting to camp, we're going to call you and we're going to say, hey, we want to let you know this is happening. How would you like to handle it? How can you help us? Forms for medications, we will send that out to you. And again, like I said, that will be out within the next month. If a child gets sick prior to coming to camp, whether it's COVID or whether it's any other illness, usually just contacting us, a note from a doctor usually would allow you to pick an alternate session as long as there's space, or a refund at that point. But again, just reach out to us. That's usually not a problem. We do not, again, so the question about COVID-19 vaccinations, we do not know at all yet whether they're going to make it mandatory for campers. They did not last year. It wasn't mandatory for staff members. It's our feeling at this point that they're not going to make it mandatory, but we don't know. And that's, again, we'll let you know. Both kids and parents can come to the open houses. Bring the grandparents if you want, bring everybody. That would be fine. Thank you for all these questions. They're great. This question has to do with activities and ages, and are younger kids able to do all the activities, especially if they're coming to like the first experience camp. So the first experience camp, we want them really to try everything at camp that they can. So your first experience campers should expect that they're going to do archery, that they're going to do the climbing wall, that they're going to go swimming, and they're going to go hiking, that they're going to do survival in a nature activity. What they're not going to do is, we're not going to see a kid in a first experience camp doing, say, zip line or high ropes course. And at Weona, they're not going to be doing horseback riding because we're just not able to schedule it in during the short time that they're there. Question is, do counselors ensure that the kids are showering and using sunscreen? We try our hardest. So we, of course, want your kid to be safe, and we want them to be successful while they're at camp. And we're going to encourage as much as we can that they shower whenever they're available, but we're not going to force kids. We just don't have the power to do that. It's not going to have that power struggle. So that's why I say encourage your kids. If if they're told to shower, to have them shower. It's very rare that they don't, though. In terms of like bug spray and sunscreen, kids are reminded frequently. So it's as soon as they get up in the morning, we're putting on sunscreen and bug spray, numerous times during the day, before and after swimming, before and after they go in the woods. So numerous times, the staff are always trained to make sure that they're reminding the kids to do that frequently. Yeah. Okay, so question about bathrooms. There are not bathrooms inside the cabins. The bathrooms are right outside. So at Kenan, you can see the restroom is like just a cabin or two down, short distance away. There's centralized restrooms. Same thing at Weona. The restroom is in the center of their living area. So it's similar, just like at your house, where the bathroom probably isn't in their room, but they have to go down the hall, and they're not necessarily going to wake you up in the middle of the night. So they're all very close. They're within a very close walking distance. You can see them from the cabin doors. Kids are encouraged, of course, to use the restrooms before they go to bed at night. They're usually taken a second time to go, and the counselors are always there and available to take them if necessary. Question is about availability and registration right now. Camp, all the spots in camp right now are about 50% full. Some weeks are more full than others. The fourth week at Kenan is very full, and the first week at Weona is very full. And so when I say that, I mean like less than 10 spots for both boys and for girls. Last year, we had a waiting list of nearly 200 kids who weren't able to get into camp. I would recommend registration as early as you can, because those spots are going to fill up. As a reminder, again, we're doing just half seasons at both camps because of COVID. And whereas traditionally those camps could accommodate 100 or 120, we are setting our maximums this year at 80 for each week. So we do expect that they're going to fill. The only programs right now that have wait lists are some of the first experience camps and some of the counselor in training and leader in training programs. And if we do see a significant wait list, we will try to accommodate, either create a new session or accommodate more kids as much as we can. Can counselors help do kids' hair? Absolutely. So if a child needs their hair put into a ponytail or braided, a counselor can help them with that. We just ask that the kid approach the counselor about that, and they'd be happy to do that as long as they're able to. Question about what movies do they watch at camp? We rarely watch movies. If anything, it might be during a rainy day week, and I'm very sensitive to what programs they're watching. So it tends to be a cartoon, and I try to be very careful as to, what the appropriateness of that is, because I know even all the Disney movies aren't necessarily appropriate for, say, a 7-year-old. The last question here just kind of has to do with ages and appropriate activities and kind of older kids versus younger kids. For the most part, the kids are going to be doing activities with their cabin group, which are the kids that are closest in age to them. They're usually just 1 or 2, ages different. They're not going to be, a younger cabin is not going to be necessarily with an older cabin doing everyday activities. Where they might be together would be, say, if they do a choice activity or a skills activity. Older kids might be with younger kids, but we try to watch them really careful. Camp is not like you see in the movies where the kids are just kind of roaming all around by themselves. We, of course, like I said, are regulated by the New York State Department of Health, and they, just like other regulatory agencies, they require us to have a certain supervision ratio. So ratio for younger kids may be 1 to 6 or 1 to 8. Older kids, it may be 1 to 10, but the counselors or staff members are always with the kids. So if the kids are going to the restroom, the counselor is within sight or sound of them. If they're at the pool, the counselor is there. And so we really take that supervision and the safety of the kids very seriously. We also have, a no bullying policy and a no violence policy. And so if we have kids that are not treating each other nicely, we're going to make sure that we address it as soon as we can. Absolutely. Okay. Are there fans in the cabin? This is the last question here. Yes. So each of the cabins usually has a box fan that's in it. We also leave open the windows at night. They all have screens on them. And usually they will cool down really well. And then you just get the breeze blowing through, and they're usually not too bad. So thank you for being here tonight. I hope I gave you some answers to questions that you were looking for. My most important thing is I believe in camp. I want kids to go to camp. I truly believe they benefit from it. I believe I benefited from it, and whatever I can do to try to give you information and to comfort you is what I am really here for. So please reach out to me by email, reach out to me by phone. I would be happy to talk with you. And I know Adam will as well, as soon as he starts. So we are here for you, and we want your kids to have a great time at camp. So I'm going to let you go. This webinar has been recorded. Do look forward to hearing from me again. I will send you this recording, and I will let you know about any upcoming open houses and any other webinars we have. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you at camp.